Well, it's that time of the week again for Sterlo's wrap-up. 16 rounds gone now, and gee, it feels like a long time ago that it kicked off in Wollongong. The man himself alongside me, Peter Stilling. Good to see you.
And you, James. And a big gap now between the top 8 and the bottom 8. 6 points. And we've only got at most 9 games left for some clubs. So to catch up 3 games is going to be very difficult. We may well have our top 8. We just don't know in what order at the moment.
Yeah, and that will make the back end of the season very intriguing. Let's go back to one of those teams that's right in contention, not only for top 8, top 4 and perhaps top spot, the Dragons. Didn't look like it for a while, though. The Eels going down 20 points to 18, but they had this match in their hands for 70-odd minutes, Pete. Well,
they were the better side for at least that time, and it's a classic example of a side that has become used to winning on the back of a really good season thus far for the Dragons, up against a team that lacks confidence, and when the other team makes a bit of a surge late, they're looking over their shoulder, they get nervous, here we go again, and that was the problem for Parramatta. So a very disappointing end of this game. Effort was fantastic from the Eels. As you say, they had a good lead coming into the final 7 minutes. Certainly a big enough lead to go on and win this game. But as a Parramatta fan, I got nervous with about 8 minutes to go, and we're about to have a look at the incident I'm talking about, because to me it was the beginning of the end. We see here they get it wrong from the dummy half for a clearing kick from their own line. Now it goes to Nathan Brown and then to Mitch Moses. That's the last tackle, 5 out from your own line. You've got to get that right. Now you kick the most dangerous man on the field in Matt Duffy, and Brad Takarangi comes up here with a terrible defensive play. Tim Manners on his inside. Michael Jenny, you can see, just missing the tackle there. He was back getting some treatment for an injury to his back on the line. He really had to get up there and be in that defensive line. So to me, that showed fatigue and a lack of concentration. St George Illawarra scored from the next set of 6, and then they scored again late. So Parramatta, I just thought they lost their way in that last 10 minutes. Both physically and I think mentally as well.
Strong game from Tarek Sims. He's been called into Brad Fittler's Blues team, not only as a squad member, but he's in the 17 on the bench on the back of a very good performance, Pete.
He'll go crazy. He's got plenty of aggression in him, and he's been one of our form back rowers all season. It's just reward. And Origin just shows again, if you're close enough and you stick around and your form is good, you'll get that opportunity. You've got to feel sorry for the likes of Regan Campbell-Gillard, Boyd Cordner, no certainty to play in this next game. So it's great to see Tarek Sims will get a chance to play, and he'll come out and rip in.
Oh, yeah, bring it on. Of course, Wednesday week, Origin 3. Now, let's go to Friday night. 2 nail-biters on both sides of the ditch. This one, the Warriors. Well, again, they looked home and hosed too. The Cronulla Sharks getting out of jail, though, Pete. 18 points to 15.
Yeah, I was really impressed with both teams here. Again, Cronulla, one of the grittiest sides in the competition, just know how to win these tight games. And I didn't lose much faith in the Warriors because I thought they were really good. Just a couple of calls went against them. And the fact that Isaac Luke was offside when he scored from the Blake Green kick, they got that right. If Simon Mannering gathers a charge down field goal attempt, they win the game. And that's only 2 minutes out from full time. So that's how close they were. But again, Cronulla, they hung in, and that's what they do better than probably all teams in the competition. And I guess the big thing here as well is Aaron Woods comes into the lineup, and I thought his display was really good. Played 38 minutes, 16 runs, 134 metres with no errors. Now, you throw him to a front row rotation alongside Andrew Fafita and Matt Pryor. They are looking very, very strong up front. He's a great acquisition halfway through the season. It's all a bit bizarre, isn't it?
Oh,
he leaves the West Tigers, he goes to the Bulldogs, and all of a sudden he's with a Cronulla side now that will play finals football. And I think he's going to have a really good second half of the season because he'll be feeling less pressure with so much more class around him.
And he's got himself in a team that's a chance of finishing right up at the back end of the season as well.
Yeah, and he had, he's played. I don't know if he's played finals football before, so exciting time for him, despite the disappointment of, basically making a big decision, going to the Dogs, and it not working out, not through his own fault.
The other nail-biter on Friday night, Adelaide Oval, the scene, the second time the Roosters and Storm have met there. In the end, Melbourne 1-point winners. Cooper Cronk up against his old team and on the receiving end. Please.
Yeah, and he said it was a very unusual experience for him. I really enjoyed this game. The first hour, we didn't see we saw one try disallowed in that first 60 minutes, but then it really warmed up in the last 20, and we got a little bit of everything. Some mistakes. Latrell Mitchell missing a goal from in front at 8-all. Not saying it cost the Roosters the game, but when you have a look at the scoreline finish, 9-8.
Well, it takes the field goal option out of the game then, doesn't it?
Well, it does, but I'm always of the belief if he kicks that goal and we go and we get a restart, the Roosters might have dropped the ball from the kickoff and maybe Melbourne score from that. So you never quite know, but it was a telling moment in this game. The Melbourne Storm made a lot of errors, but Cameron Smith just put his hand up once again. I said to the boys that he wasted our time. He should have just called it the first time and not have Cameron Munster go through 3 attempts, and because he just nails it.
Yep.
And he did on this occasion. Not an easy kick. He was under pressure. But then they had to defend their own because it looked like going to Golden Point with Cooper Cronk having a chance late in this game to wrap it up. But 2 of the heavyweights, they'll be there. They'll meet again, hopefully, in maybe that last month. And I think the Melbourne Storm would get confidence out of that, but I don't think the Roosters would be too disappointed because they weren't far from the mark.
There was plenty of intrigue surrounding this match at Panthers Stadium to kick things off on Saturday. Penrith hosting the Manly Seagulls. An upset, 18 points to 10, a win Manly desperately needed against the Panthers side, Pete. Some concerns now over them, back-to-back losses at the wrong time of the year.
Well, the first 40 minutes was horrible. It was mistake-riddled. They couldn't hold on to the football, and you knew that both coaches couldn't wait to get their team into the sheds at half-time and say, guys, we've got to get this right, we've got to fix it up. Now, it didn't happen. Penrith came out and made a mistake first set of 6 after the half-time break, so it didn't hit home. And Manly, after a pretty ordinary lead up into this game, I think they'd lost their previous 4 matches, came out. The Trbojevic brothers were excellent. They had some injury concerns. They lost Matt Wright after he scored that try. Dylan Walker left the field late, so they had plenty of adversity to get through. When you say concern for Penrith, yes, Anthony Griffin wasn't making excuses. He said we're a long way from where we needed to be. But it is that difficult stage of the season that all sides go through, and it just seems to be Penrith's turn now. Big loss, 32 points to 8 to the Roosters before this game, and they got out of absolute jail against the Canberra Raiders by a point the game before that. So their last 3 performances have been very poor, and they take on a Warriors side without any Origin representation on Friday night. So it doesn't get any easier for Penrith, who again have some injury concerns also with Campbell Gillard on the sideline. They lost Kikau. So tough times, but I'm not too concerned because the depth of their roster is very strong.
We were also seeing a preview of the Origin halves battle too, with Nathan Cleary up against Ali Cherry-Evans, who's been chosen for the Queensland team. A long time in the making. It's been a few years between drinks for him.
Well, Cherry-Evans was very good in this game, and he got one up on Nathan Cleary here, who got sin bin late in the game, and that was the telling time because that's where Jake Trbojevic set up that wonderful pass for Trent Hodkinson to score. And later on in the game, when Cleary came back in, he made a break and looked like he was going to score in the corner. Cherry-Evans came across with a try-saving and maybe a match-saving tackle. So Daly Cherry-Evans goes into Origin with a fair bit of confidence after that performance.
OK, the match after that, the Knights hosting the Bulldogs. This one a battle of the battlers, 36-16. Canterbury Bankstown beginning their new life without Aaron Woods, without Moses Sembai, in style.
What about that pass from Remus Smith?
Straight over the shoulder.
Absolutely outstanding. And
didn't look.
They good first half from the Newcastle Knights, but obviously some injury concerns for them in that second half, and the Bulldogs just ran away with it. I thought it was an uplifting performance from them because they've had plenty of negative press of late. Talk about how they're going to struggle for the next couple of seasons, let alone this game here. Not an easy place to go in front of a big Newcastle crowd up there again, but their second half was really impressive. Disappointment for the Knights, obviously, not just in the scoreline, but the fact they lose Slade Griffin, his 4th ACL. And we were talking 9 to 12 months on the sideline there, and he's had a fantastic season for them, been so solid out of dummy half. And of course, the injury to Kalen Ponga, which was going to see him on the sidelines for 3 to 4 weeks. They missed his spark. And
Queensland will miss it too.
Yeah, and Newcastle will miss it for the next month. So they've only won 1 game, I think, out of the last 8. So it would be disappointing to see them undo all of the good work and goodwill they established in the first half of the season if they can't go on and have a good finish to the year.
Mitchell Pearce expected back for the next game. So
that'll help.
Bit of a boost for the Knights just when they need it most. The last game on Saturday, the Broncos hosting the Canberra Raiders. The Raiders up 16-0, looking very comfortable, Pete, and then, as they've seemed to develop a habit of doing, losing the unlosable match.
And 16 could have been more. I thought it was a skinny lead because their domination that first 40 minutes was clear, and it could have been a bigger margin than that. So obviously going into half-time, you think, well, if they come out and can just play anywhere near the way they did in the first 40, they win a very important game and close that gap between 8th and 9th. But complete turnaround, and much of it on the back of Anthony Milford. He was poor in the first 40 minutes. He was dynamic in the second 40 minutes. And that's what this Brisbane side are able to do. They can look like they're out of the contest, but I know 16 sounds a big lead, but in today's game, if you're a side that can score quickly, it's not that insurmountable if you get a lot of football and you get good field position. Brisbane were able to do that. And when you've got players like James Roberts and Anthony Milford to take advantage of all of that, then you can run up a scoreline fairly quickly. And they did that. Good performance from Brisbane, but the old proverbial game of two halves, this one.
Certainly was. Let's head to Sunday afternoon football. Leichhardt, the scene is sold out. Leichhardt Oval. The Tigers, it was looking very good for a while there against the Titans, but eventually going down 30 points to 12 as they welcome back Robbie Farah.
Yeah, they just didn't follow the script, did they, the Gold Coast Titans here? They didn't understand. It's Leichhardt Oval, Robbie Farah comes back, the prodigal son returns. Hadn't been there since 2016, started in, I think, 2003. Moses Mbai comes in, we're going to be a better team with him at fullback. Josh Reynolds plays his first game at Leichhardt. Everybody forgot about the Gold Coast Titans. This is a team that can cause some problems for the high-profile sides in the second half of the season. I think their last couple of performances have been really strong. They blew the Bulldogs off the park their previous game. Way too good in this one in the second half. Everybody forgot the Titans. We were also focused on the return of Robbie Farah. And I've got to say, I thought Robbie Farah was really good. And what an afternoon for him. I think 247 games for the Tigers. He played the most for them out of any player. And he came in, and especially in the first half, you can see the vision here. A lot of metres and pretty strong performance. But ultimately, on the losing side, a packed crowd at Leichhardt Oval on a sunny afternoon is always a wonderful sight as well. And look at that, we didn't ever think we'd see Robbie Farah striding away in a Tigers jersey again in front of a Leichhardt crowd. The only downer for them, they got beaten.
Yep, it's sort of an anticlimax, I think Robbie Farah said.
Unless you're a Gold Coast fan.
Absolutely. And on the Gold Coast too, Ryan James on standby for Boyd Cordner with that calf injury heading into Origin 3 at the Suncorp Stadium. Now, the Rabbitohs and the Cowboys, Cairns the scene, Barlow Park, and a wet and wild one too, to say the least. 21 points to 20, South Sydney, 8 straight now, an absolute nail-biter between these two.
Yeah, seesawing match, wasn't it? And when you're talking about 8 straight wins for the South Sydney side, they haven't done that since 1989, the year that they finished minor premiers. So they're on a really good run at the moment. And the Cowboys here with JT, Jonathan Thurston firing in that first 20 or 30 minutes, you thought, well, hang on, they've got a real problem here. But South Sydney showed plenty of grit. I thought Sam Burgess was outstanding once again. And a concern with Greg Inglis breaking his thumb in this game. So he'll be on the sidelines, you would imagine, for a little while. And in the end, it came down to a nail-biting finish. North Queensland get a penalty. Jonathan Thurston doesn't kick the touch. He realises that they need to get further down the field. So he calls on Kyle Felt to come in, who we know has got a huge boot, comes in, finds good metres, and then Jonathan Thurston has the opportunity to tie things up and send it into Golden Point. Now, he hits it really well. He just didn't get it between the posts. Now, I know that you thought he might have rushed it a little bit. It's not easy because you understand in your head. He actually looked to the side and said, do I have to tap it?
Yep.
And he got, the affirmative nod, which takes away a couple of seconds from him, and it also just puts something different in his mind than just taking the field goal.
What about someone else taking the tap and passing it to him further infield?
That's an option as well, but you're thinking, well, OK, the pass, does that take away time from me as well? But you can stand a little bit deeper. You make the angle much better. In the end, he hit it well. He just didn't hit it well enough. South Sydney win 8 in a row, and unfortunately North Queensland's terrible season continued up in pretty much their home territory.
Greg Inglis, as you mentioned, out for a stint. That means Billy Slater to be captain of Queensland in his last match for them in the maroon jersey.
Won't be much emotion up at Suncorp next week, James.
Oh, bring it on. Cannot wait. Thank you, Sterlo.
Cheers, James.
That's Sterlo's wrap-up for the 16th round of the National Rugby League.